Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And I told you guys that the first boss battle runs were not the greatest things in the world, and that if I had done a little bit better, then I would record that and then we would make a new video. Well, we did just that. We increased our boss battle 1 score by almost 100k, and our second boss battle by like 90k. This is very much in part thanks to the team build that the Sweaty Tryhard Nature gave me, and he wanted to keep it under wraps until the JP side of the server crept up into his power level, which it did, so then he was like, alright, you can drop the video now. So here we are, dropping the video on how to massively do disturbing amounts of damage in boss battle. Now, this is going to be just one video going over the team build for the 2 stages. This team is not for beginners, right? This is for people who have this specific team build. And if you don't, well, then go back to the previous Jubilee video and, try one of those teams out. This is for the people who really want to sweat, who want to have, RNG be part of their lives, and who want to have an attempt at doing big mommy damage with the ladies in Jubilee. So with that said, let's jump into Boss Battle 1's team. Alright, so Boss Battle 1 team is going to look like this. We've got Lumi, we've got Warrior's Mind Violet, we have Aqua here because we are able to pierce in this stage, and the added benefit of Aqua being just a pure buff means that we can hold it in the back on at least 2 of our units. So we're going to use the Aqua buff before the nuke turn and save it on Jean and Violet, who are, our biggest damage dealing units because they have type advantage. And then that'll give them just additional amounts of power. Blanc is here, Jean is here with Warrior's Mind Lumi, which you don't need Warrior's Mind Lumi underneath her, but, she works. And then Violet, surprisingly, has Megamine underneath her. And that is purely because we need another unit alongside Blanc to give us the turn 2 protection gauge trait, to get 2 stacks of Lumi. And there are no others, there's no space units that do that. So if you have like Fire Violet, if you've got Megamine, if you've got, Water Xion, any of the turn 2 protection trait characters, just slot underneath Violet, because she's not going to do as much damage as Jean, so you want to make sure that Jean actually has a good support unit, but we do need that turn 2 protection trait. So that is why, if you're not really worried about that and you're okay with just running like 1 stack on turn 2, then just put another space support slot underneath Violet and call it good. But for this run and this team, we need the double stack on turn 2. And that's going to take a hot minute, because not only is this team dependent on RNG, because we only have the 2 converters, right? We have Violet, and we have Violet. We have the Violets. No one else is an orb changer here, so this run is heavily dependent on what turn 2 looks like, and what turn 7 looks like. So here we go, turn 1, we've brought the 3 girls in. Blanc and the support Megamine have the turn 2, so we're going to cover that last little bit of gauge that we need to get 2 stacks of Protector right here. And they're, not the greatest hand in the world right here. But, it is what it is. So, yeah, here it's a reset, because that ain't going to work, right? We need a perfect orb change hand for this to go on. This is a very high RNG team. It needs very specific things to happen on specific turns in order for you to maximize it and get what we need out of this. So, and even this run, like, it's not a super duper perfect run. I could go back and I could make this better, because I don't get the EX alt with Blanc. I have 2 EX alts and then normal alt for Blanc. And ideally, if you want to do max score, you would have all 3. And that would increase my damage by another 20k maybe, or something like that. I don't know. But there you go. So if turn 1 doesn't work out, it's an automatic reset. Like, if you can't orb chain to a full 6 mana blue on turn 2, it's a reset. And that's just, so you're going to burn a lot of tickets doing this. And I mean a lot of tickets. Okay, so here's the caveat, right? We need alt gauge for everybody. So I'm not really going to pass up a 5-hand of oranges, because it's going to get us a lot of alt gauge for everybody, right? And also, we have Aqua, who is able to rush alts for some characters. It's the unit with the highest attack, so you'd have to play around with it to see like who you actually need to have alt gauge. And we do that in this run of swapping certain units out in order to maximize that effect. But there we go. 5 oranges on turn 2. We have, after Violet, we'll have a perfect turn 3. And you know what? We're going to just run with it. So, again, like I said, not a perfect run, but a pretty good run. And now we have alts for everybody, which means that we have a guaranteed 3 blue orbs minimum from here on out, which is really, really important for, keeping the RNG low. So here we go. It's like we just need a Violet orb change and we need the alt swap and we're good. So, and we're getting, decent orbs, and this, ensures that everybody's going to have at least 1 orb at any given point in order to get us, more alt gauge. So, very, very important that, because if you get 2 greens here, like, things can look kind of bad, unless you want to bring in Warrior's Mind Violet and swap one of the greens out. But that means that you're not going to get alt gauge for that other character, so it is, again, very, very much RNG. So we're going to alt swap, we're going to orb change to another full hand of blue, and I mean, we're looking pretty good. We got 1, 2, 3, so 1 Blanc orb, not the greatest. This is why we don't get her alt, because we just never get Blanc orbs, even though she is going to be in for an extra turn versus Jean and Violet. So, okay, we got 1 there, so perfect. Again, as the 3 blue orbs really helps out with the RNG, so more stacks, alt swap, orb change. We're gonna get the Jean alt right here, which is great, and then we'll get very, very close to a Violet alt. And we're halfway through the fight, and we're looking fairly good. Like, I had very high hopes that this was actually gonna be the run where we got all 3 EX alts, and unfortunately, it doesn't quite work out like that. But so upcoming is 3 turns left. Specifically, you must have Aqua up front on turn 3 instead of Blanc. So that's also why we don't really get the Blanc alt. So we gotta make sure that it works out. And right here, we got 2 greens. Not great. Thankfully, one of them is Blanc, which means we can swap out Warrior's Mind Violet for her first, and then, fix it. So we'll swap here, and then we will swap Violet in for Blanc. That'll take one of the greens away, and then we can use other Violet's orb change for a full hand of blues. And then we bring Aqua in. And the reason Aqua needs to be in here is because we need to be able to apply her Pierce buff on the next turn and swap both Jean and Violet out while they still have that Pierce buff. So turn 3, this must be your lineup. Violet, Jean, Aqua when you're attacking. And if it's not, then you fucked up and you gotta reset. So, here is a very important turn. So, let's go look at the points. Alright, so we are a nut tap away from a double protector. That's unfortunate, but oh well. We have 350 points. We have 2 EX ults. This turn is the other murderer of runs, is because you need to use 80 points from Aqua already. So that puts you down underneath 300. You need to swap these 2 units out, Violet and Jean. And you need to have, at minimum, 82 skill points left over after everything is said and done. After you use Aqua, after you use the alt swap, after you use orb changes, you must have at least 82 skill points. Because a 6-hand of blues on this turn will get you 293, which will put you at 375 points, which is exactly the amount that you need to use all the other buffs besides Aqua on the final nuke turn. So if you, get really unlucky and you have to orb change a butt ton and you end up with like 50 points, you're not going to have enough to do a full buff. If you end up with 72 points, you're not going to have enough. If you end up with 80 points, you're not going to have enough. So it definitely has to work out in a very specific fashion right here. So we're going to use the Aqua buff. That way we can keep it on the 2 space nuking units here. And then we haven't used any of the stacks of Aqua for her Pierce debuff and her Alt Rush. And while that more stacks would definitely help our damage output, we cannot use that here because it would put us too far below the point cap where we wouldn't be able to full buff next turn. So I think I sit here for a while and I think about it. So yeah, so we're going to take out Blanc for Jean. It's going to swap that blue orb right here. All right, perfect. So here we're going to alt swap and orb change. And that gets us a full hand of blues, and we have 85 skill points. So we are 2 points over what we would need to full nuke. So we do not have enough to use a 25-point skill here. Otherwise, we would miss out on the EX alt buff next turn. So we're going to send this, and then we're going to call it good. So that gets us double stack, 293 points right there on top of the 85. Gets us to 378 points, I believe, if math serves me correctly. Yeah. And that is exactly enough, with 3 points left over, to do the full-time nuke. And now the only thing that you're really praying for is that on the final turn, you actually have orbs for Violet and Aqua to swap out for the 2 nukes in the back. But unfortunately, as you saw, we are a nut tap away from getting Blanc's EX ult. So that's really unfortunate right there. But it is what it is. Thankfully, though, we do have 1 Violet orb and we have 2 Aqua orbs. So we do get the run in most of the sense. So we're going to use the Violet debuff here because it's just a debuff. Doesn't matter if no one else is up front. We're going to bring Violet in for Violet because she only has 1 orb. And then we'll bring in Jean for Aqua. And now we have just enough points to full buff with the Blanc buff, with the Violet buff, and with both of Jean's buffs. And you're going to see we're going to have, 3 points left over on the board after we're done with this? And we're going to do a butt ton of damage. So, 2 more stacks of Lumi, call it good, and then we will full buff. We have, unfortunately, not like a full 6 orb send. That would also be something that would definitely help out if we had like 3 EX alts and 3 Jean orbs. That would do a lot of damage right there. But we don't, so it is what it is, and I don't really feel like doing this again. So, we're going to send 1, 2, 3, and then we're just going to send the Jean orb, because she's going to do more damage than the 2 Blanc orbs combined. So, we'll send it. Blanc does 1.3 million. She's missing the Pierce buff, and she doesn't have the EX buff, and she doesn't have an EX alt, so her damage is looking real low. Violet does 6.2 million. Awesome. And then Jean does 8.1 million. Incredible. And then the follow-up orb from Jean does 300k by itself. And that was only 4 orbs. Like, that wasn't like a 200%. That wasn't a 150%. So we're just at 16.7 million. And we could have gone probably over 18 had we had more Jean orbs and the EX alt for Blanc. So that is my best run so far. This is my ending score, 356.6. So that is how things must work out for Boss Battle 1. Very specific things must happen for you to be able to do this. So now that that's out of the way, let's move on to the team for Boss Battle 2. It's not that much different, but it is different. Alright, Boss Battle 2. The only difference is that instead of Warrior's Mind Violet, we brought Albus, because we need her for the turn 1 orb change of the 2 greens to 2 blues. So we're going to combine the Pierce of Albus and the Pierce resistance down with Aqua's Pierce power up. So we're just kind of doubling up the gap of damage on Pierce alongside all the normal buffs. So we're foregoing the alt resistance down in order to give all 3 of our units will have Pierce rate, technically. So even Blanc will benefit from having Pierce and the Pierce resistance down. But again, the same thing has to happen where you have to swap out Jean and Violet with the Aqua buff on turn 7. So apart from this different unit, it's going to run the exact same way as the last team did, where you need a good turn 2. You need 307. You need 82 points minimum on turn 7. You need to be able to use the Pierce buff and swap Jean and Violet out on turn 7. Like, all of that remains the same. It's just we've changed one unit who still has an 80-point buff. So, regardless, it's gonna work. So, thankfully, bringing Albus means that we have one more orb changer, which means that we need a little bit less RNG for a lot of the turns, which is nice, because, man, running that boss battle 1 team was making me rip my hair out and giving me a lot more gray hair than I already have on top of my head. So, here we go. They're perfect. We get a full, well, just about a full hand of blues. We just need to use this orb change because I want to keep the Albus one a little bit cheaper as much as we can. 2 stacks of Lumi because, again, we still have Megamine underneath Violet for the turn 2 trait, which is very important. This run, I believe I do get all 3 EX alts, so don't quote me on that. It's been like 2 days since I recorded this, or since I recorded the gameplay. So you'll have to forgive me. But he does now guard, which the other boss did not. So that does cut our damage back a little bit. It's not that big of a deal because, again, the nuke doesn't care about guard. Only the follow-up orbs do. But here, it's a good thing that we have a green orb changer because otherwise we'd be kind of out of it. But I do make a mistake here. I should have used the stack of Lumi on... Wait. Oh, we rushed the ult. That's why. Sorry. See, it's been a hot minute. We used Aqua to rush the Jean ult because we're gonna get stacks of the Pierce debuff on Diablo. So sorry, that was my bad. Again, it's been a long day. All right, it's Black Friday. I went to the mall, had to deal with people. Bought those 3 figures that you may have seen on my community post. And tomorrow night is the Idol Master collab live stream. So, great. Can't wait to see what that brings us. Fun. Okay. So, this is not a great turn. We have 3 green orbs. We do have an orb changer, though. So we're going to swap Jean out because she already has like almost 1.5 bars of ult, so we don't really need her. We need Violet to get the ult buff. So we're going to rush the Violet ult here first. There we go. So we'll do that. Perfect. And then we're going to get her out after we use her orb change. And we're just going to bring in Albus, because that'll pull in that other blue orb, which means that we only need to use 1 orb change here, right there, and that's all we have points for. There we go, and we didn't need to use the alt swap ability. So, natural hand of blues, it's not the best turn, because, you know, only Blanc is benefiting it from us, but it does get us that 3rd orb for Blanc, I believe. So it's going to, you know, help get her alt there, too. And now we just have a surplus of Blanc orbs, which, you know, isn't a bad thing. So here, we only have 1 orb for Aqua, so when we swap her out, she's gonna get, you know, taken away. So we only have 2 orange orbs at that point. So let's do that. And then we can rush the ult again on Violet and put another debuff stack on Diablo. And then we'll bring Jean in, and then we'll use the stack. We'll use the ult swap, and we'll use Violet's orb change, and we'll be looking good, because now we have 4 Blanc orbs. Violet's gonna get her EX ult, and Jean is, I think, 1 orb away on next turn to get her EX ult. Maybe 2. But here we go. This worked out very, very well. So that kind of wonky last turn where only Blanc was up front, it did work out for us in the end. And there we go. We got 3 Jean orbs now. We just need more Blanc, which we're gonna get one because we're gonna swap the ult away. But this is turn 3, which, if you remember, is where Aqua needs to be here. So, we're going to have to forego the EX ult on this turn for Blanc in order to get the setup that we need. So, we will bring Albus in for Blanc. We'll use her orb change eventually. There we go. All right. Orb change. And then we'll bring Aqua in. And we'll probably use 1 more stack of the rush as well. No, okay, we kept it cheap. Never mind. We're not going to play around anymore because that skill's going to get a little bit too expensive. So now we definitely can't use that skill anymore. And, alright, we got 3 oranges. but one of them is going to get swapped out. So let's put these last 2 stacks on the 2 space girls, because they're obviously much more important as far as damage dealing is concerned. And then we'll use the aqua buff. And again, we have to make sure that we have 82 points when we're all said and done. So this takes a little bit of finesse right here. So we do have to swap Jean out first, and that'll bring in that hand. And then we've got a perfect Violet Orb change, and that is just enough points, again, to do everything that we need. 85. And we need 82. So perfect. Can't use anything else. And then we're going to be ready to go. This will also get Blanc's EX Alt, because we have not 1 but 2 orbs for her, and she's only a nut tap away. So we're ready to go. We'll bring Albus in for Violet. So both of our big-time nukers have the Pierce buff saved in the back. We've got a full hand. We've got the EX Alt. We've got another stack of Lumi, and we've got just enough points to go ahead and nuke. So very similar setup comp that needs to happen here, but it is the same. So you're going to recognize when you're doing these runs, if you even attempt to do these, that certain things need to happen. We'll use the Pierce debuff from Albus here, which also gives Blanc the Pierce buff in general, which is great because now she'll benefit, and then both her and Aqua are coming out of here. So Violet's going to come in for Aqua, right? That's going to take that green orb away. Eventually. There we go. And then we'll take out Albus for Jean, and that gets us a 5 hand. Again, could be better, could be 6, but it is what it is. At least they're not nerfed greens or anything. So 1, 2, 3, 4 buffs right there. So everybody is raring to go. And then we've got a 5 hand send of stuff rather than a 4 hand. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So here on this turn, Blanc's EX Alt does 2.8 million damage. Awesome. Violet does 5.9. Alright, not quite as good, but still pretty good. And then Jean does 7.7. So overall, not quite as damaging as the previous run, because the alt debuff is much more powerful than the pierce resistance, but we need a green orb changer here for that turn 1. And then the follow-up orbs do 148, the 150 orb from Jean does 625,000 damage. So, I mean, if we had more orbs, we could have broken probably 18, 19 million almost, because the 200% orb from Jean would have done stupid amounts of damage. So, she would have done over 1 million. So there we go. 17.9, 376.9 is the final ending score for Boss Battle 2. This is the team that the Sweats have been running, or at least Nature and I have been running. This is going to get you a really good score, but you do need this very specific team to do this. If you don't have it, then you're gotta have to understand that your score is not going to get this high. And if your RNG sucks, and your turn 2 sucks, or your turn 7 sucks, and you don't have the points to swap away and maintain that 82, it's a reset. So you're going to have to farm a lot of tickets in this last couple of days if you want to try and attempt this, because I think I did it I think I burned a total of 800 tickets for these 2 runs. It's not fun. But if you want to do it and you want a good score, just, to whip the ruler out on people, then this is what you got to do. But that's it for me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.